so many companies in the country that are certified. Trust me, the government, you get heavily scrutinized when you do that. I mean, they look up everything. So we are certified in that. So we have some collaborations that we would, going to invoke, and that is to go into libraries and schools and community centers. We work with low housing authorities to educate, to inform, to let them know that their council has brought them this. This is something that the city is insisting on providing them, and we're going to do it at the best level we can. We're not the big, ugly, other thing out there that we're going to provide this service, right?
And I was going to ask you that, because when you talked about the people in the community, so I'm hearing what you're saying, it's going to be a lot of community outreach.
Yes.
To actually ensure that those communities that we're talking about serving
Yes.
are aware that this service is going to be available.
Yes.
So to that point, Councilor, we have to understand that this is not something that we can use traditional digital marketing, for example, social media. This is something that we have to have a grassroots approach. And to your point, that's exactly what we do in our existing operations, because we have the experience, we know it works, and that's having boots on the ground, that's having community action centers, that's having actual sign-up locations where we put our individual people, common locations, whether it be libraries, whether it be schools, or whether it be grocery stores where we can, and we can have individuals sign up for our service right then and there. Trying to do this over the phone or having it, on an online portal can be, oftentimes challenging for some.
Especially when you're talking about connecting
Those that don't have it, right?
Portal, right?
So having the ability to have an in-person sign-up location in strategically located areas where we'll work with the city very closely to which areas you want to target, we'll have our people there to have that physical sign-up location.
So
This is my last little input.
Yeah.
So when you do this and you talk about the different, places you're going to have these outreach, is it going to be you, or is it going to be people that kind of look like the folks you're talking to?
It's absolutely going to be those in the community, and
Yes.
that stems from the name. It's the community broadband, so we use those in the community.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, so obviously we feel like we found a great partner in this company to help us deploy this network, but I think we would be I think foolish as a municipality to really put it all on the company to do all of the marketing. I think they're going to be producing a lot of the materials, obviously the flyers and the handouts. They have plans to do that in multiple languages, for example. But we do need to add some additional capacity to the outreach and the marketing. I've already started having lots of conversations. I see Raekwon here from Blueprint 15. We've got community organizations who are already very interested.
And part of their partnership, I'm seeing, is Luminary, and
Right.
they're, yes. So
I'm going to discuss that next. So.
Yeah, and so I think there are going to be a lot of other community-based organizations that end up wanting to help us with some of the marketing and the outreach, and it will very much be, to your point, President Hudson, their members who are the trusted messengers. We had frankly, I had a really great conversation yesterday with someone at Empower Federal Credit Union over on their West Side location, and he said, let us know when this is ready, because frankly, we have so many customers who we would love for them to be able to access our services digitally, and they can't, rather than having to come in every time to the bank branch. And he said, we want to promote this program like we promote a lot of other social programs, and like we promote our own products for our members. And so again, I think it's going to be those same folks that people are used to seeing when they go to Empower, when they go to Southwest Community Center, when they go to La Liga. It'll be those same folks that provide other services to them, who hopefully are then educating them about this program and helping them with enrollment and connecting them with the team to be able to complete the enrollment. So we're very cognizant that this is, it does require, I think, a much broader engagement effort. So the team's going to obviously be providing a good amount of effort against that. But the city, I think, needs to take a little bit of additional ownership from a deployment perspective to make sure this is successful. In addition to, frankly, just evaluating and measuring the outcomes for all of that effort, which again isn't really a part of their scope of work, but would really be on the city to evaluate the effectiveness of the program. So we'll be putting all of that in place as a part of the deployment strategy for the network.
And also, Councilor, I will add that, the people that are hired to put this network together are local people. When you call, there will be a person, not an automated system, that will answer the phone. So, and these people will be here They will live here. I mean, that's the core of what we do. That's why we call it community broadband services. It's built by the community, for the community. That's our premise and why we do what we do. It's distinguishing us from all the other carriers who may outsource their stuff to other countries or other areas, which is fine, but we believe in doing it locally, by the people, and it's bilingual, so if there's any consolation, I cannot speak Spanish, so it won't be
More
me
than
answering.
that. Spanish is easy.
Or any other language. I barely can speak English, so it's,
So about
I ain't so good.
About the additional city effort, though, does that mean additional funding is going to be needed beyond this? I mean, I know you said you're going to be paying.
Yeah, to speak to the marketing effort, we do have a strategic marketing plan, and it is laid out here. So the city, as Jennifer mentioned, will be collaborating, and we do have a strategic marketing plan that's already been included in this budget. So there would not be necessary funds for our purposes.
Right, for you.
Right. So I do
Yeah.
suspect we will come back. Again, I don't think we need to expend a lot of additional resources, but we're looking at some partnerships with frankly, other nonprofits that do this in other communities and have, a lot of experience with how to effectively engage communities around broadband accessibility. And so, I suspect when we have some of that sorted out, we might come back to council. But again, I don't think it's a large ticket item per se, but I do suspect, just from a city capacity perspective, since we don't have a lot of additional community engagement resources.
But just for
available for
capacity,
just
let me
this.
just throw this out there, and I'm going to give you the name of this person, and maybe you guys can take it. It's a young person, and I'm going to get him to send me all the information. He has like advertisement TVs set up in different stores throughout the west and the
perfect.
south side.
I know who
So you know who I'm talking about? So yeah, maybe that'll be an opportunity to
Yeah.
bring in
Oh, that's a great
more
idea.
of the community.
Yeah, that's a great
This
idea.
is a collaboration between us and you guys, so when you have that kind of information, we want to take it, use it, exploit it to the point that we get to these customers, these people. If we do the rates that we're talking about with ACP, which most of these people will qualify for, you're looking at almost nothing for internet. And so that ACP gives you a $30, subsidy, which comes to us and we credit the customer. You can buy a laptop or a tablet for very expensively.
Yeah, that's clear to me, but I'm just thinking this is a finance committee meeting.
Right.
And we see the 3.5 price tag right now. I'm just wondering what else is going to be coming
Yeah.
down the road, because once we approve this, we're all in.
Of course.
So if there's another $500,000 that we need to pay the community to do outreach and enrollment, then that's a whole other area that we should consider.
And I handle a lot of the marketing, so if there's any further, explanations you'd like or get any more detail, we'll go into the subcontractors. We're looking, as Paul said, to collaborate with the local individuals, the local groups, nonprofit groups, organizations within the community to have a exponential outreach, right? So it helps in the way if you collaborate. So for example, Luminary is one of our main subcontractors that we'll be using. We understand that they're involved in the city as well. And other programs, we intend to use CNY Works for hiring. We intend to collaborate with some youth groups in order to get the message out. So again, as part of our marketing approach, we'll be leveraging other local community programs to allow that to happen. And I can answer any questions you may have as far as the effectivity of the marketing.
I trust your marketing and your whole strategy.
Sure.
Again, I'm just wondering if we're going to be paying CNY Works or we're going to be paying these organizations or Blueprint and say, we're going to give you $20,000 a year to help enroll and do whatever else.
It'd be baked in now.
I don't know.
Can we also, and maybe you are doing this, but collaborate with the school district and any kids that live in this targeted area?
The intention, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's
Yeah.
one of our.
One of the qualifications for ACP is if you're in a school lunch program, you're automatically qualified for ACP. And that includes not only the internet, includes also providing a device, a laptop or a tablet for $10, one-time payment.
Most important is for those that are remote learning, right? To have access to remote learning, that students that can't be present at school, those are the ones we find that need the internet the most, and at least in the deployments that we've worked on. So to continue on, and if there's any other questions, by all means, I did want to touch on the customer support, just because it's a very big distinguishment that I think that compared to the larger providers, the Verizon, the Spectrums out there, that we, from your experiences, I'm sure you have all had time to call up one of the technical service lines, you're on hold for at least 30 minutes, you get routed a couple of different ways, and then you get to somebody finally. We distinguish that, and as Paul mentioned, all of our customer service agents, they're hired locally, they're staffed locally, they live here locally, and they'll be in a local office that you yourselves can go down and you can see our customer service center. Within 30 seconds of calling online, you will be attached and you will be directed directly to a live person. There is no doubt about it. You can certainly try it. As far as other methods, we do also have, again, a local office. You'll be able to, once an individual has connectivity, they'll be able to live chat with us. There's other ways, online portals with a fast-track ticketing system. And from what our experience have we found as far as our customer support, and as I said, we certainly like to distinguish it, 60% of all issues that we found to come into our customer service line, those are all resolved within 6 minutes. That's simply because we put a live person on that issue, and within 6 minutes we have someone talking someone through a technical support issue. We have a billing question, we talk them through a billing response. We found that to be the case. 80% of those issues we resolved within 2 hours, and then 97% of all of our issues are resolved within the same day. Usually if it goes beyond that 6-minute time and we have to roll a truck out, we're rolling that truck out within a 24-hour period. So that's really how we feel we distinguish ourselves in a customer service. It just goes to another level where we're looking to serve the community beyond that third-party outsourced calling center. Again, there's no harm in that. I'm sure these larger companies can't afford to have local staff, but the point of it is to make sure that we do have local staff helping the local community through any sort of technical billing or customer service related issues. To get into the subcontractors, as I mentioned, other individuals that we're looking to work with, we do intend to work with a number of local community programs, but as well as to get the project done, we're specifically interested in working with a few WBEs, MWBEs as well, and the two that we found to be most responsive and most interested in the project that also we felt the qualifications would work very well with what we're doing is Luminary Electrical and as well as JWA Construction Management. Those two we have been corresponding with over the course of time. We're laying out our plans for the project. We found that Joy at JWA has been responsive as far as the rollout and deployment of it and the overall management reporting, and Luminary will certainly be involved on the construction side of the element as far as our installations of these POPs or points of presence. For our workforce plans, right now, we actually are, I believe it's about 15-15, as far as 15 minority, 15 women. We look to increase that as our goal for our deployment in Syracuse, and our overall goal will be 20% minority workforce and 15% women. And both of those will exceed the expectations as far as the EEO requirements. And then as we've spoken about, we certainly will be using a diverse number of employment organizations. You'll see a number there listed. We've been speaking with the city, with Jen, as well as other local organizations that we'll collaborate with to be able to access those that, again, may not have the ability to see ads on Indeed or local papers, where these are individuals that, they're most best reached through these programs, as well as local students. That's something that we'll also be looking to offer internships to and provide opportunities, as this is a growing and this is a learning experience for those that are interested in joining the tech space. Moving on, we're here happy to answer any questions. We did want to close out with just making some key points. That the most important component that I think the takeaway is that this is the quick deployment. Whereas if there was a wireline solution that was even being contemplated, there would be permits involved. There would be time frame that would be really just it doesn't serve the city where we see a need now. There's a digital divide that's present. It's something that we can see. It's something that we experience on a day-to-day basis in our existing operations. And as Tom mentioned, within 2 months, 100% of the entire census block areas that's been contemplated in the RFP will be covered. So at that point, as Jen mentioned, we'll have the ability to serve anyone in that area. So should there be a family in need, let's just say that there's a child that cannot be in school, that's disabled, and cannot get access to remote learning, that's the first person we can go to. We don't have to wait for permits to get down that street. We don't have to wait to get, cross over a railroad. Within 2 months, we'll be able to get to that. And then, as mentioned, within that 10-month period, we'll have 2,500 residents subscribed. Hopefully, we'll do it quicker. Again, we intend to be very aggressive in our marketing strategies. We can certainly onboard more, but we do feel that this is going to require some market education, and we will be there to educate the market and make sure that these residents of the city of Syracuse understand what they have available to them, and then we'll get them signed onto our network. And we're happy to answer any questions in regards to any of that.
So going back a little bit to the implementation.
Sure.
So out of the cost, which is roughly $1.8 million, do you have like a rough breakdown of what are the components that go into the implementation for that?
Sure. So as far as that $1.8 million cost, That's really the construction side of it. So as we had discussed with the city, there's two components. There's the ongoing management, and then there's the construction component. So the construction component, how that's broken down is the city will be acquiring fixed assets. So you guys will be acquiring this next generation broadband technology, which is produced by a manufacturer known as Tirana, that we've had deep discussions with the communities, with the city's technical team. And through there, the city has approved this plan using these devices. So the city will be investing in that. You guys will own that. You will own the network. You will own all the assets. And then another component, of course, is the installation and the build-out and the infrastructure of this. So as mentioned, utilizing the electricians, utilizing any other construction components to get this network up and running is really on a higher level. And I can certainly break it down even further, but that's where the $1.8 million is going to.
And if you could, break it down a little further and send it to Jen so that we can have a hard copy of what the total breakdown.
We have an itemized list of every single component, with all the technical names. You have a base node, there's SICLU, redundancy receivers, all the technical, we can break that down on, every individual cost as well as the, per installation amount on what it would cost on a line item basis. Yes.
But I guess at a high level, is most of it the devices, or is the fiber, running the fiber, a really significant part of it?
We're not running fiber.
Okay.
Understand that the fiber that we refer to is just going to these 3 locations. So there'll be 3 locations. That's that points of presence that we discussed earlier, right? So that's the fiber is essentially is there, and we're going to be seeking to use buildings that we've already been scouting out. That we've spoken to the fiber providers. We know where the fiber network is laid within the city, and we're looking to be as strategic as possible to avoid having any sort of additional fiber. Most of the city buildings does have fiber already laid to the city building, and we're going to be using that as well. So once we get that established, only 3 of these locations require fiber. Those are the backhauls, as we mentioned, and then from there the installation is really going to the individual residents, getting to 2,500 homes and installing the receivers where these transmitters are transmitting the signal. The receivers pick that up, and that's the bulk of it. Getting
Yeah, and I will point. I was going to point out that we've actually had conversations with all the providers of the fiber, and we actually have a 45-day from when we say go ahead to when they'll have that up and running. So that's within that 60-day time period. So we're good to go on that.
Is it free to link up with them, or is there a fee for that?
There's a fee. There's a monthly fee, and that's covered in the cost.
That's all part of the cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's incorporated in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a turnkey cost to do.
And we actually have 3 different vendors, as I mentioned. I'm a big redundancy fan, so just in case anyone fails, we'll be able to roll over traffic to the other 2.
So this federal program that provides $30 a month and more, depending on your income, that's available to all providers currently, right? So Spectrum and Verizon can take advantage of that?
Yes, so you have to sign up, which Spectrum and Verizon both are participants. But yeah, once you're a certified participant in that program, then yes, your customers.
It is available, but the challenge is how to sign up, right? So these other providers, the Verizon and the Spectrums, as you mentioned, they have an online portal, which, as we know, most of the residents we're referring to don't have access to the internet. And then from there, it goes through a Social Security process. The application, Tom knows every individual detail, and the application is extensive. Whereas as the customer service center that we mentioned, our own staff, we actually do that for the customer. So we'll walk the customer through that step. It's, as I said, going through the qualifications, whether it be on an income basis, trying to have them figure out their tax returns, and if they meet that threshold. It can be complicated. We have individuals, both bilingual, that can help them walk them through and actually get them signed on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just point out, I mean, it could be, we have 2 people living next door, one person 10 minutes to get them signed up, the other it could take 3-4 days. Just paperwork going back and forth to get that approved. The other thing is this ACP is available. It's a $30 off for internet service. With ours, the way it's worked out is it will be free to those residents. So, I mean, Verizon may offer this, and, depending on what their price is for 100, there may be, leftover, monthly payment a customer would have to make. So, I mean, we're hoping this will bridge digital equity in that it's at no cost.
And one quickie, I know you said Spanish. What other language do you have? Because we have quite a few languages in this city.
Right now, we've seen that Spanish is the predominant need, but should there be another need of the city, it would be not an issue to obviously acquire that.
So what languages are you?
I don't know. I only speak English. But
So to answer the question is we have staff. Our staff right now is we have bilingual staff.
Right.
Spanish, English, but we also have a translation service available. And what we would look at is if there's a lot of language, because we have to, there's some budget in there for the translation service, but if there's a lot of specific language coming in, we would then look to hire somebody
And I
local that would.
that because we have Somalian, we have Asian, we have a whole big broad of different, people.
Of
So
course.
I'm glad to hear you say that you would look at hiring, because I think we should need to look at maybe the top 4 or 5 languages in this city.
Okay.
And we need to understand the need, right? So if there's, again, information as far as census information or survey information on what that is, we really never got into that detail with the city, but of course we'll work with Jen and the city folks to understand what that need is.
Yeah, and we've been working very closely with, obviously neighborhood and business development and the city planners to certainly map out the area for this pilot program. So I think we can easily, pull that information as well, and as the team is putting together their project delivery plan, make sure it's clear which languages are likely to be in this particular initial area that we're targeting.
Because I know it's a pilot, but at some point, if we extend this pilot out, you have to be cognizant of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and to that point, too, I'll just say, just so that it's clear to everyone, so we, as the administration, had set aside a larger amount of ARPA funding related to broadband. So obviously wanting to do a pilot to really test the efficacy of the technology, as well as, just the interest and the level of demand in the community before we try to scale anything citywide, President Hudson, to your point. But we do have additional budget that's available. So frankly, as we evaluate, and I think we're really going to try to do this in the next year, because we obviously have a limited window to commit that ARPA funding, but we'll be trying to really quickly assess the efficacy of the program, this particular technology, and then the fit for other parts of the city. I think one of the benefits of picking the neighborhoods that we pick to start is they're pretty centrally located, all things considered. So when you think about the other major areas where we see a really high lack of internet access, parts of the valley, parts of the north side in particular, it's relatively easy, I think, to scale north and south from this catchment. And then, once you're north, you can hit the parts of the east side that really need some additional network support too. So the intent very much from our perspective is to have a citywide solution, to be able to really maximize the use of federally available dollars to do that. And I've been in conversations with the New York Connect All office, which is administering the federal infrastructure money for broadband. Their grant programs aren't available for cities to apply yet, but we fully intend to apply for those additional funds as well, to be able to really expand municipal network truly citywide, hopefully in the next few years. And again, if all goes well, I think what we're really hoping to see is there really is such a fast deployment with this that, it might be a matter of just a few additional months once we dedicate more funding to expanding it to really covering citywide. I think we looked very closely at a fiber to the home solution, but that solution honestly requires like 18 months lead time just to get fiber in the ground to the homes, which seemed like it was too long to wait to determine.
But let me ask you this question, though, because Chris Ryan was saying that Verizon is already on the south side.
Yep. So there are
the
current
fiber is already
private
there.
providers that are, right. So there are current providers that have their own fiber, in different parts of the city. That's true. This is a totally separate network that's not dependent on their fiber necessarily.
I think another key distinguishing point to that, councilors, is that while there's existing fiber, we have to keep in mind the price points of the fiber service.
Right.
Where fiber, in the nature of the need to bury the fiber, run fiber above line, the construction side of it, where, as to what I just answered here, is that there's 3 locations that we're working on. Those 3 locations are all we need, just 3, in order to provide access to 8,500 homes. Whereas fiber, if you want to provide that access, you have to run that fiber to those blocks. Now, again, I'm not going to speak on behalf of these large providers, Spectrum or Verizon, but just if we were to do the math, think about the math behind what that cost would be. How would they make their money back? They could never be at the price point that we have, simply because our technology is more advanced than laying, cable in the ground.
So in the future, you're confident that those service that we're going to provide maybe expand, there's going to be a stream of revenue that will be able to support it for future city.
Yeah, so that's essentially what we're going to be evaluating as a part of the evaluation of the pilot. Obviously, a part of it is the performance, capability of the network. So is it really fast? Is it really reliable? Is the customer service really meeting the needs of the customers? That's on the, kind of the performance side. But on the financial side, we also will be coming up with a sustainability plan for this program. So the intent would be to create basically a budget neutral program where there are offsets to the cost of subsidizing service for lower income families, right? Right now, we're obviously focused on using our federal recovery money to directly provide service to folks, and obviously once you make the investment in the capital infrastructure, then it's there for you to use in the future. But moving forward, we will have to look at questions, for example, like should we be allowing other folks to access the same network, higher income families, for example, where we could charge them maybe less than what they would pay to another private provider, but that would offset the cost of continuing to subsidize service for folks that maybe can't afford as high of a bill, right? This provider in particular does have experience offering different tiers of service too. So while for our initial network deployment, which will target kind of that 100 up, 100 down service, they could provide higher speeds as well, and we could offer that at more of a premium cost, which again helps to offset the cost of the network. So there are lots of different ways, frankly, that communities could implement a program like this that enables you to basically maintain the network, cover all of the ongoing costs of just maintenance, network operations, to pay for all the customer service agents and that kind of thing. And so we're going to be evaluating all of that to come up with a proposal for, how would the city do this moving forward in a budget neutral way once the ARPA funds run out, obviously, and then we can't use that revenue source anymore for this, right?
So you've been in Finger Lakes, you said, for 4 years?
That's correct.
Started. So have any of those municipalities cut ties with you and sustained their own?
Are you referring to a municipal network that we've worked on?
Yeah.
So Tom can speak to, I don't believe we have any other...
We work with them.
We work with them, but the municipality doesn't necessarily own the network.
Yes.
In this case, you guys will own the network?
Right. So you don't have any clients like that currently that you're...
No, this was a very unique proposal.
But we have collaborations with them, so we work with them, and that's how we actually got started. Was the counselor of Geneva had asked me. I was a consultant for several mayors, and he said, "Look, we don't have internet out here. Can you find someone to put internet out here?" I said, "Sure. I've been in business for 35 years. I know everybody." Found out no one could do it. So that's how TVN was created. It was to provide internet for people who don't have it or can't get it. And those collaborations, that city worked, or that town worked very closely with us and helped promote us and help produce what we do today. And so we've taken that sort of mentality of going forward, working closely with municipalities and ensuring that we do what's in the best interest of the community.
Just want to answer you. I know it's a finance-related question. You're trying to figure out the numbers component. So we worked with the city. As part of the RFP, it was requested that we did not get involved in the pricing structure. We're happy to. Once we create the relationship and we establish this program, we're happy to work with the city to explain what we would advise price points on how we can structure different tiers. As Jen mentioned, we do have tiers in our own program right now where we offer lower tiers for the ACP applicants or those that qualify under those provisions that meet certain income thresholds. We have a discounted program for those. We use that. We obviously have that in a bucket itself. We have another bucket of those that are in the higher income bracket that we offer a higher level of service to, and that has another area called profit, where we can use that profit to offset the losses that we're able to offer our lower service. And so we can work with the city and create a similar structure to make sure this is sustainable for a long term.
So this is just basic service?
Well, the basic service that we're providing, I believe, compared to those that would call basic under the FCC minimums, 100 up, 100 down is quite advanced. I would say it's
The FCC minimum is 25.3. So
25.3 is the basic level.
It certainly surpasses that.
So 100 is much higher than basic.
What we're referring to is adding an additional level of service, or other opportunities would be, let's just say, possibly higher speeds, offering TV, offering phone, having the ability to leverage that network that you guys will own to increase that revenue stream to then bring in, that offset amount.
Mr. Cleve, nice seeing you.
I couldn't resist, Councilor Irwin, because I'm wearing a sweater, and so I
Stress down day again.
It's stress down day again. I knew I needed to come in. Frank Oliva, the city's chief administrative officer. Just a couple things on the ownership model. The folks at CBN offered us, as those who are on the RFP committee remember, a couple different models for financial and business models, the way we could have done this. We specifically chose the ownership model really for two reasons. First, it gives us maximum flexibility when the pilot's successful and we want to expand it. We're able to build it out and build it on. It's unlikely that we would ever recommend that the city be operating the network ourselves, and we would contract with our friends at CBN or someone else to operate that network for us as we built it out. The other thing that got mentioned early on, and I want to make sure it doesn't get lost, is we're really concerned about the redundancy of communications among our 85 properties, and ownership of this network gives us the ability to build in some of that redundancy around our own internal communication. So that really led us to think that this model of the ownership but operation by folks who are experts really made the most sense. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just think my main concern, and I'm glad Frank cleared up some things, is that we identify streams of revenue to do this in the future, because once we provide a very important service, I mean, we have some people that, obviously they can't avail themselves of so much that
Right.
the world has to offer because they don't have access.
Right.
It's not a utility, not a luxury.
Right. So yeah, we're definitely very much invested in coming up with, that business model moving forward. We'll obviously keep the council updated, and certainly once we feel like we have a good, sustainable model to scale this out, we'll need to come back to you to authorize the remaining ARPA dollars. But, I think we're very hopeful that there will be, a financial model we can put in place that enables us to sustain this, so we don't, offer something for 3 years and then have to pull it back.
I wouldn't want to be sitting on the council if that would happen.
I wouldn't want to be sitting here when that happens either.
It certainly won't be.
President Hudson and I will be out together.
Understand that we have, we've built a model, and we're happy to share our own financial model that we employ ourselves, just so you see the success behind it. And to the point, again, whether the price point starts at a certain level for those that can't afford it, realize that those that are providing right now, the Verizon, the Spectrum, the prices that are being offered is simply just unattainable. And even if there needs to be some type of a second tier for those that want to join the network that are in a higher income bracket, the price point would be nearly half. That's what we found. I mean, we're essentially half of where the bigger providers are, the fiber providers. As we mentioned, just because of the infrastructure investment, they simply have to, return on their investment versus the affordability, that deployment.
And also mention our numbers. I mean, our numbers, we guarantee the price for life. That's the other factor too. So in our current deployment, it's $39.99 a month, and we guarantee that for life. And it's just because of our cost, the underlying cost. We don't have to pay poll fees and all that type of stuff, and we're happy to provide you service.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, to make sure it's clear and on the record, the point of this is not to try to throw any existing providers under the bus, or, I think we have great providers that are doing a good service. Obviously, most of us, I think, probably get our home internet from those providers today. But this is really about, recognizing in a city our size, even though we are a smaller city compared to, some of the mega cities out there, we have more demand than I think exists today for the service providers we have. We just don't have enough options to meet the needs that exist in the community. And so this is about creating options, affordable options, and that's it. This, again, I think our community deserves more than just 2 or 3,
And it's about
private
narrowing
internet
the
providers.
economic and
Exactly, because there's such a relationship between this type of service and opportunity, whether it's educational or economic or, telehealth. I think we've had really great conversations with folks at SUNY Upstate Medical who want to do some additional programming for folks who live in these neighborhoods in particular to bring them telehealth solutions, but they can't do that because folks don't have high-speed internet at home to be able to connect those heart monitors or blood pressure monitors and that kind of thing. And, then those folks, when they have an asthma flare-up or some other kind of chronic, episode, they have to go into an ER. So there's really so many benefits of, internet connectivity at home, and folks shouldn't have to go to the library necessarily to do it or go to their community center, is the only option for accessing internet, which or be at school to access the internet.
Just one quick question, one more. You said that laptops $10. So if I have 4 kids in the house, all 4 of my kids get laptops?
The program only provides one
I think
laptop
there's a
per
limit.
household, unfortunately.
But this is where, again, I just want to make this point so that everyone's aware of all the connections we're trying to make. So this program doesn't exist in a vacuum. We consider this a part of a portfolio of things the city is investing in around digital equity. So folks will remember a few months ago you all approved the launch of a digital empowerment program that's being facilitated by many of our community centers. Again, seeded with ARPA funding initially. Those folks are coming up with a way to fund that program into the future. But this needs to be married up with that, so that there's a free device program that they're running as a part of that program. So again, I think there's not just a one-size-fits-all solution for the needs of the community. We have multiple players who are providing devices. For example, this is about the connectivity piece itself, but then the digital empowerment program is also about the literacy component, so the training and the technical expertise to be able to use the computer to apply for a job or do a Zoom meeting or frankly just a Zoom with your grandkids, whatever you might need to do. So we're trying to be very intentional about layering these things so that we have approaches that really meet people where they're at and meet them where their needs are. I suspect there are families who just need the connectivity. They've got maybe a device at home and they have, they know how to use those devices, but then there are going to be families that need, the connectivity plus the device plus the training. And we want to be able to equip people with all of that. So I think this is obviously one very important piece of the puzzle that we think, frankly, sets us apart from a lot of other communities that haven't yet taken this step. I think it's a fairly bold step, but I think it's a necessary one and one that we really look forward to partnering with council on.
Thank you.
Thank you. CQ Advertising, that's who they are.
Yep. We'll make that connection. CQ.
SEE. Okay. CUE. Phone number 315-533-2723.
Well, Jen, thanks for coordinating the meeting, and I appreciate it, and we'll close it out.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.